This is one of those stories where the more you try to ignore it, the louder it gets, because what started as a few anonymous posts and resurfaced screenshots has now crossed into something much bigger. Not whispers, not fringe comments, but a viral narrative that people won't stop digging into, and one that finally forced a response. Not a statement, not a press release, a confrontation. According to multiple accounts circulating online, Erika Kirk has now confronted her ex-fiancé after explosive claims about her marriage to Charlie Kirk began spreading at speed. And whether you believe a single word of those claims or think they're completely unhinged, the fact that this reached the point of a confrontation changes everything. Because public figures don't confront people unless something has gone very, very wrong. And once you understand where these claims came from, why they resurface now, and what people think this confrontation actually means, you'll see why this situation just entered a completely new phase. So let's slow this down, rewind the timeline, and walk through how we got here. For a long time, Erika Kirk's public story was remarkably clean. In interviews, appearances, and public conversations, she described her life before Charlie Kirk in very controlled terms. She spoke about avoiding dating culture, staying out of messy relationships, and living a quieter, more disciplined life before meeting the man she would eventually marry. That version of events became the accepted narrative. It wasn't heavily questioned, mostly because there was no reason to question it. Erika wasn't a tabloid figure. She wasn't living in the celebrity gossip cycle, and most people simply took her at her word. That is, until people started looking back. Because once someone's public profile grows fast, and Erika's absolutely has, the internet does what it always does. It rewinds, it screenshots, it cross-references, and it starts asking uncomfortable questions. The current controversy didn't begin with a major outlet or a breaking news headline. It started the way most viral scandals do now, with resurfaced material and people claiming inside knowledge. Old photos, archived social media posts, clips from past appearances, and commentary from people who claimed to know Erika before Charlie. At the center of it all was one name: her ex-fiancé. According to online accounts, he allegedly began telling people, privately at first, a very different version of Erika's past, one that directly contradicted the carefully maintained public narrative. And then those claims leaked. Again, to be clear, these are allegations. There has been no proof presented publicly. But once those claims entered the online ecosystem, they spread fast. Because they weren't just about dating history, they were about motive. The most explosive allegation to emerge was the idea that Erika's marriage to Charlie Kirk was not entirely organic, that it may have been arranged, incentivized, or strategically encouraged. That single claim is what turned curiosity into outrage, not because people suddenly believed it, but because it reframed everything. It made people re-examine timelines, introductions, career moves, and proximity in a completely different light. Suddenly, things that once looked coincidental were being interpreted as intentional. And once that happens, the internet doesn't let go. Reaction videos popped up, threads exploded. People who had never cared about Erika Kirk before were suddenly watching every clip, every interview, every past statement with fresh eyes. And that's when the speculation escalated even further. This is where the story crossed from gossip into something much darker. Some users online began questioning timelines related to Erika's pregnancies. Others pointed out a lack of public photos. A few went as far as making outrageous claims about paternity. Let's be absolutely clear here. There is no evidence supporting these claims. None. But once the internet starts stacking speculation on top of speculation, logic stops mattering. People convince themselves that unanswered questions are evidence. And from a human perspective, this is where silence becomes impossible. Because now, the narrative wasn't just attacking Erika's reputation, it was attacking her family. This is the moment everything changed. According to multiple online reports, Erika Kirk confronted her ex-fiancé directly after these claims went viral. And that detail is crucial, because confrontation doesn't happen when something is harmless. It happens when a situation feels uncontrollable. If these were random trolls, there would be no reason to engage. If this was meaningless noise, silence would have been the smarter move. But this wasn't noise anymore. This was someone from her past, with proximity, fueling a narrative that had reached critical mass. So the confrontation wasn't about convincing the internet. It was about drawing a boundary, about saying, this stops now. But here's the problem. Once confrontation becomes part of the story, it validates the story's relevance, even if it doesn't validate the claims. Reactions split immediately. One side saw the confrontation as completely justified, a woman standing up to someone spreading dangerous, false allegations about her marriage and children. The other side saw it very differently. They asked, why now? Why engage at all? Why not issue a blanket denial and move on? And that's where the speculation deepened, because in internet logic, engagement equals significance. The moment Erika confronted her ex-fiancé, the focus shifted away from the claims themselves and onto her response to them. And responses are always dissected harder than accusations. Whether anyone believes him or not, the ex-fiancé's role matters for one reason: proximity. He isn't anonymous. He isn't distant. He was once part of Erika's life. And allegations from people with proximity always carry more weight in the public imagination, even when they're unproven. That doesn't make them true. It just makes people listen. And once people listen, stories grow. Timing is everything. Erika Kirk's public visibility has increased massively over the past year. Her influence has expanded. Her presence in media has intensified. And whenever that happens, scrutiny follows. Old relationships resurface. Old contradictions get magnified. Old narratives get challenged. This happens to celebrities, politicians, influencers, anyone whose platform grows faster than their public history can keep up with. That's why this didn't explode years ago. It exploded now. Here's the uncomfortable truth about confronting someone in a situation like this. From a public perception standpoint, there is almost no version of confrontation that ends cleanly. If you stay silent, people say you're hiding. If you respond publicly, people say you're panicking. If you confront privately and it leaks, people assume there's something to protect. That's the trap Erika found herself in. Because once these allegations reached the level they did, involving not just her marriage, but her personal integrity, letting it slide wasn't an option anymore. But engaging also meant feeding the story. And that's why this confrontation has become such a focal point. People aren't asking what was said behind closed doors. They're asking why it had to be said at all. And once that question is out there, it changes how everything before and after gets interpreted. Another layer people aren't talking about enough is power. Right now, Erika holds the platform. She has the visibility, the media access, the audience. Her ex-fiancé doesn't. That imbalance matters. When someone with a much smaller platform accuses someone with a massive one, audiences tend to split into two camps. One side assumes the smaller voice must be telling the truth because what do they have to gain? The other assumes the smaller voice is chasing attention. Both reactions are emotional, not logical. And when confrontation happens, it often reinforces both beliefs at the same time. Supporters see it as justified pushback. Critics see it as pressure being applied behind the scenes. That's why the confrontation itself became more important than the allegations. It created a narrative moment that neither side could fully control. If there's one question driving this entire situation, it's this: why now? Why didn't these claims surface years ago? Why didn't the confrontation happen earlier? Why is this all exploding at the exact moment Erika's profile is higher than it's ever been? And this is where conspiracy thinking thrives. Not because answers exist, but because gaps exist. Gaps invite theories. Some people believe the timing proves the claims are strategic. Others believe the timing proves they're retaliatory. And others believe the timing doesn't matter at all. That this was inevitable the moment Erika stepped into a bigger spotlight. The truth is, timing alone doesn't prove anything, but perception doesn't need proof. It just needs coincidence. This is the most dangerous phase of any viral controversy. When a story stops being about a specific allegation and starts being about a person's character. That's what's happening now. People aren't just asking whether a claim is true, they're asking whether Erika is capable of it. And once the conversation shifts from evidence to personality, it becomes almost impossible to shut down. Past statements get reframed, old interviews get reinterpreted, neutral moments become suspicious. Even normal behavior starts to feel calculated when viewed through the wrong lens. That's why confronting the source doesn't reset the narrative. It deepens it. Because now people aren't just evaluating what was said, they're evaluating how Erika reacts under pressure. Another factor keeping the story alive is what the ex-fiancé does or doesn't say next. If he goes quiet, some will assume he was intimidated. If he speaks again, others will say he's escalating for attention. Either way, the situation feeds itself. And that's what makes this dynamic so volatile, because now both sides are trapped in narratives neither fully controls. The ex-fiancé can't easily walk back claims once they've gone viral. Erika can't easily erase a story once it's embedded in the algorithm. They're both reacting to momentum rather than directing it. Here's why this story refuses to stay in the celebrity drama lane. It intersects with trust, power, influence, and image. People aren't just invested because it's scandalous. They're invested because Erika represents something larger to different audiences: values, stability, credibility. When someone who symbolizes those things gets pulled into controversy, people react more strongly. They feel either betrayed or defensive. That emotional investment is what keeps people watching, not the facts, the feelings. Realistically, there are only 3 things that make stories like this disappear. 1. Overwhelming evidence that convinces even skeptics. 2. Complete silence long enough for the algorithm to move on. 3, a bigger story replaces it. Right now, none of those have happened, and confrontation alone doesn't resolve any of them. It just adds a new chapter. So here's the reality. No claim has been proven. No accusation has been confirmed. No conclusion can honestly be drawn. But something undeniable has happened. A private history collided with public scrutiny. A controlled narrative lost control, and a confrontation turned speculation into spectacle. The real question isn't whether these claims are true. The real question is whether this story burns out or keeps evolving. Because once a controversy reaches this stage, it no longer belongs to the people involved. It belongs to the audience. And right now, that audience isn't done watching. Anyway, this concludes today's video. Be sure to subscribe to LoafTube for future celebrity videos, and turn on that post notification bell so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Until then, see you in the next one.